Pritzker. Because of this order related to COVID-19 health concerns affecting the state and the city, the mayor has determined that an in-person meeting at City Hall with all participants may not be practical or prudent. Alderpersons and staff may not all be physically present at City Hall due to the disaster, and physical attendance at City Hall may be limited. To participate remotely during the public comment or public hearing portion of the meeting, please join by phone at 1-678-487-6879, PIN 449-156-282#.
Thank you very much. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Present.
Hurt.
Here.
Gilbert.
Present.
Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Mayor Tomes.
Here. Okay, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Public comment. Is there anything signed up? Yeah, at least 4. Yep. Thank you, sir. All right. A few people signed up. Abby Howley.
Can I do this for this? Good evening, Mayor Tomes and council members. My name is Abby Hawley, and I have resided on 44th Street in Rock Island for almost 5 years. I am proud to be here to represent and promote the election of Ms. Evelyn Day as 7th Ward Alderman. I've known from the moment I met Evelyn that she is an advocate for the people of our community. She is a natural-born leader and is always strategically thinking of ways to improve our community. I truly believe this is one of Evelyn's most prevalent priorities and believe anybody in our community who knows her would agree. When I have concerns about our city and our community, she is the first person I confide in for advice. Not only does she listen to concerns, but she also collaborates ways to help solve the issue to produce a better outcome or resolution for the situation. She is one of the most patient, understanding individuals I know. She promotes teamwork in the community and is always open to new ideas to make the community a better place and prevent issues before they even arise. I admire Ms. Day for her charitable nature. She assists with multiple programs within the community. She most recently helped with organizing and fulfilling of multiple Angel Tree Program children's Christmas wishes. She has also assisted with feeding the homeless and the promotion of education within our community for those who needed assistance. She truly cares about this community and all the people in general. For this and many more reasons, she's a great candidate for 7th Ward Alderman.
Thank you. All right, next is Natalie.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak tonight. My firm, QC Passport, which is a division of MediaLink, has been awarded an African American Civil Rights and History grant in partnership with Pearson Consulting and the City of Rock Island through the National Park Service. I am speaking tonight because there have been a number of misunderstandings surrounding this award to the City of Rock Island. I met Charles Pearson, the president of Pearson Consulting, in December of 2020. We were introduced through a few leaders in our community who recognized we both have complementary businesses and thought it would be worthwhile for us to see where we could help each other out. QC Passport has been 10 years in the making. It has finally come to fruition because many people in this community saw a need for physical and interactive reminders spread throughout our community to link the progress we have made to date with the achievements and struggles of our descendants who called this place home. Right now, we have 5 completed destinations, which you can see at each Channel Cat port throughout the Quad Cities, or by downloading their app, I'm nervous, and then pulling up QC Passport in the menu bar. These first 5 destinations were made possible through a sponsorship with Metrolink. Now, with sponsorships through the City of Rock Island, Visit Quad Cities, and now this African American Civil Rights Grant, or AACR grant, QC Passport will have 36 destinations throughout the Quad Cities by the summer of 2022. With each destination, our team collects the information needed from our area nonprofits and volunteers to form a web narration, writing for the sign at the destination, as well as a fully produced audio recording visitors can pull up at each destination to transport them to the heyday of that particular destination. These nonprofits and volunteers work in tandem with us because we annotate where every piece of information comes from in our destination. We ask our nonprofits and our volunteers to edit what we have written and what we produce. We give a thank you to those who contribute in both the web narration and in the audio recording. We add a donation button to the end of each web narration. We add information and links to each of our nonprofits and volunteers on our website, and we actively promote them and their events on our 4 social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We do this because we deeply understand that if these folks did not do their due diligence of tracking down and recording this history, this vital information and insight into our past would be lost. Charles Pearson with Pearson Consulting also takes a collaborative approach and has been working to highlight the history of the Black community, not only in the Quad Cities, but throughout Iowa for years. He started the Iowa Civil Rights Trail to highlight the Black experience throughout the development of the Midwest to bridge what divides us. His passion and excitement about creating these physical destinations to highlight Black culture is infectious and admirable. As the 2 of us explored how we could work together and help each other out, both of us were also talking with the City of Rock Island about our different projects for the city to consider. January 9th of 2021, Charles came across this grant that would specifically fit what both our organizations do and would be funded through the federal government, so it does not require any funds by the city. We had 2 days to develop this grant and submit it before it was due on January 12th. For any of you who have applied for a grant, you know it is a long shot. We were competing on a national level, and because of the short amount of time we had to submit the RFP, I felt like there was only a slim chance we would be awarded this grant. Most grants and RFPs are decided within 60 days. So when I heard nothing in that time frame, I guessed our grant request had not been funded. However, this grant was not decided for 8 months. The City of Rock Island called us the end of August to let us know the 3 of us were awarded this grant. The City of Rock Island decided to issue a news release even though we had not received all the paperwork from the National Park Service and a formal contract with the city had yet to be drafted and signed. Charles and I did not see any problem with the release of this information because this is truly great news for the city. However, without a formal agreement on how the city would pay us through the grant for what we complete as it pertains to this award, we are not authorized to start any work on the grant. So, the sub-recipient grant agreement between the City of Rock Island, Pearson Consulting, and QC Passport regarding the Historic Preservation Fund and the National Park Service African American Civil Rights and History Grant is the document we still need to have signed before we can proceed with any work on this grant. Once the grant is signed, Pearson Consulting will hold a series of community meetings to determine which 10 sites in Rock Island best reflect the African American heritage of the city of Rock Island from 1900 to 1970. And can these sites be listed as national, state, or local landmarks for their historical importance and their contribution to the civil rights movement in this country? Once these 10 sites are determined, then Charles Pearson, along with our team, will work to research and collect the information we need to make these goals a reality. This will be accomplished through the support of volunteers and community nonprofits who are connected with these 10 destinations. Once the information has been gathered, Pearson Consulting will continue to pursue landmark status, and QC Passport will develop a rough draft of this information to be edited by the volunteers and nonprofits connected with each destination. Once we have approval from all parties involved with the destination, the signage will be posted, the web narratives will be live, and the audio production will be produced. Once these 10 destinations are live, there will be an official kickoff, and there will be continual promotion of these destinations to visitors and Quad citizens alike for years to come. I need to stress our focus of each destination is to tell the story of those who came before us from their point of view. Understanding what really happened and having the ability to put yourself in their shoes is a crucial step to understanding the cultural heritage of each of us and how we can harness this knowledge to bridge our divides. There have been several public statements made before this City Council to undermine this project and the work we do. So, there are a number of corrections I need to publicly state tonight. It was said in a previous council meeting that we said we did not contact anyone from the Black community in Rock Island prior to developing the grant. But then we said we talked to a number of people. Charles has been working within the Quad Cities for a number of years with a focus on preserving the history of the Black experience, not just here, but throughout the Midwest. Throughout his years of work, he has talked about putting together a project like what has now finally been awarded. So even though we had 2 days to pull together a nationally competitive grant, there were several people Charles had previously contacted in the Rock Island Black community about a project just like this one. It was said in a previous council meeting that we said we did not think we would get the grant, so we did not contact anyone. This was taken out of context. We did not reach out to Shelley Moore Guy, Moses Robinson, or Gay Bennett because we did not know them prior to developing the grant. I first met Shelley Moore Guy while she worked with me on a part of the Metrolink sponsorship in May of 2021. I did not mention the grant to her at that time because by that point, I did not feel like we had gotten the grant. Again, grant awards are usually announced within 30 to 60 days after the award. Why would I mention a project we did not get to someone I just met? It was also said in a previous city council meeting that we did not contact these 3 individuals after the grant was awarded. They had to reach out to us. We did not reach out to anyone about the grant because there was paperwork for the grant that still needed to be completed. We did not feel comfortable starting the work of this grant until there is paperwork showing a clear path and how we are going to be reimbursed for our work on this grant. The final piece of this paperwork is still pending a vote of the City Council and the City Manager's signature. Once this is signed, we then have the authority to reach out to people and begin our work, but not before then. Again, the very first piece of work, according to the grant, is a meeting with the community to determine which destinations meet the requirements for this grant. And do these destinations have the information needed to fulfill the 33 pages of requirements in the grant? The entire focus of the grant is to tell the story of the people of this community through their eyes. As I said earlier, each project Charles and I do around historic preservation is focused on collaboration with the nonprofits who have done this work and people within the community who can contribute to this part of our collective history. It was also asked at a previous council meeting, and I quote, "Who decided that they had the authority to represent African Americans without even discussing it with any of us?" As I stated earlier, the objective of QC Passport is to work with the entire Quad Cities region to share our rich history from every walk of life. We are currently working with Metrolink, Visit Quad Cities, and the City of Rock Island to develop visible markers throughout the Quad Cities of our rich history, and everyone needs to be included. Our region was developed by a mixture of Indigenous people, Hispanics, Irish, Jewish, Germans, Swedish, Belgians, and African Americans. It is paramount that our community understands all these stories in a fluid way to break down the barriers that divide us. Through the contesting with QC Passport, people will be moved to come to areas of our community they have not previously explored. Through the donations of QC Passport, we encourage with each and every destination, these nonprofits are focused on serving this community. They'll be lifted up. Through Pearson Consulting's Iowa African American Civil Rights Trail, visitors from outside our area will be able to learn and embrace this history, and collectively, our community will have daily visible reminders of how far we've come and how much more and how much we have to be proud of in this community. It will give all of us the inspiration to do better and to know we are truly not in this alone. No one person gave us the authority, but a number of people in this community understand our vision and see the need for all of us to share our collective histories with each other. The question was also asked at a previous council meeting: who would own this history? When I was originally asked this question, I was taken off guard. I did not think any one person can own history. My career started as a journalist, so I worked publicly day in and day out, gathering facts to let people know what was going on in their community. All my work was cross-examined. All my reporting had to be annotated and verified. There was no opinion allowed when I went to school, only the facts. So I really did not know the answer to that question because I didn't think anyone could own a part of our history. Everything Charles produces and I produce goes through the same rigorous process, and this grant will be no exception. With this grant, there are also local, state, and federal guidelines we must follow. In fact, there are 33 pages of rules we must follow for this to be signed off on. And all of our work is to be submitted to the National Park Service in the end for their stamp of approval. So my answer is that all of us own this information, and it is incumbent on all of us to get this right. There are more accusations that have been said to diminish my worth and Charles' worth, and the careers we have invested decades in this community to cultivate our craft. But we need to move on. And so how do we move on? How do we move forward? If Pearson Consulting and QC Passport are taken off of this grant, the grant will need to be turned back over to the National Park Service. This will give our area a black eye, and it will be harder for us to receive federal grants in the future. People who have wanted to reach out and work across cultural lines to bring us together will not do so because of what is being done publicly to Charles and myself. If this grant is allowed to move forward, we have asked Randy Tweet to form an advisory committee made up of people from Rock Island's Black community to be the editors of the information Charles and I gather for this grant. We have asked Randy to appoint 2 people from this advisory committee to be our point people from the committee, and to work with us on making the changes we need to make with each piece of information we pull together. We need these 2 point people to be paid for their work, and yes, this part will need to be paid for by the city. The advisory committee will also need to work with the city on several other areas that affect this community to mend the miscommunication of the past. We have also asked Randy to have a representative of the Rock Island Preservation commission on this community, or form this, try this again. We have also asked Randy to have a representative on the Rock Island Preservation Commission from this community. There are not any current positions open, but we would like a representative of this community to be appointed as an associate on this commission so they can learn what the city, state, and federal regulations are around historic preservation, and then be appointed to a seat when one opens. By having representation on this committee, our hope is that by actively attending these meetings, this representative can learn what to do so we can be sure to include areas of the city previously excluded from historic preservation. My kids go to Edison. I am at the post office on 11th Street at least once a week. My husband works at IMEG. I regularly drive through and patronize this area. Right now, there are at least 2 billboards up memorializing teens who have violently lost their life.
Natalie, we need to try to finish.
When these kids do not see a solution, they take drastic measures without understanding the long-term effects of their actions. My hope is that these visible reminders give them hope and help them understand if this person did this with the conditions they faced, I can surely get through this. We just need the chance to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes to understand what is possible. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, next is Charles Pearson. Charles, are you there virtually?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, if you could try to keep your comments limited, I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, we'll make it real quick. Yeah, my name is Charles Pearson. I'm the project coordinator of the project that we're doing in Rock Island. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank the city for the great opportunity to tell Rock Island's story when it comes to African-American history in the upper Mississippi River region. Real quick, a little bit about myself. How I got a chance to probably do this project in Rock Island, it actually was supposed to be started in Davenport. And I was working with some people there, and we were trying to submit the same application in Davenport, but they didn't have the staff to actually get it done. And it was like, fortunately, I had a relationship with Natalie when we were doing some research of Upper Mississippi River African-American historical resources, and we thought that Quad City region would be a great driver for African-American tourism when we wanted to start the project. Well, what was unique was when we came to the city of Rock Island, we were looking at something simple that could be attractive to the National Park Service. And what the platform was to take 10 properties that the city may own and see if we could nominate those 10 properties to the National Register. And a property that a lot of people are familiar with, for example, the Martin Luther King Center, would be one of the city landmarks or one of the city properties that we would list as being a national landmark. You also have places like Dunsmore Park that we think that park might qualify for the National Registers of Historic Places. I think what the problem is when it comes to historic preservation, especially in the city of Rock Island, people don't understand or they're not educated about how that process works. And so that's something that if you looked at the proposal that's sent to the National Park Service, the first page or two talks directly on how we are engaged, not only engaged with the African American community, but hopefully we create a plan so when it comes to Rock Island's African American historical resources, the African American community has a plan that can contribute to the city's comprehensive plan. So the thing for myself is I should have been working in Rock Island almost since September because we've been approved by the National Park Service. We already contacted them to see if there's any glitches. There's really not no glitches. And so they said the only thing left to do is to actually get a vote from the council. So what I'm interested in doing is seeing if we can actually do a presentation of the actual project based on what I submitted to the National Park Service. Natalie's piece is pretty much after the stuff that I researched. What I like to do is get people up to speed on what the agreement was based on and what that looks like for the community as a whole and what that looks like for the city. I think what's even more important is to make sure that we have the vote of the council. So I think the right thing to do is if I could do a presentation of what we presented or what we're trying to do for the Rock Island community, and after the presentation, if the city could vote on that, then that way we can move forward, because since September, for some reason, we haven't been able to get the vote. And from my end, I just don't understand why we haven't been able to get this thing going.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to you on that. Thank you. Next up is Thurgood Brooks.
Good evening. Mayor Tomes, alderpersons, city manager, city clerk, city attorney. I wrote down there, Mayor, that I'm here to talk about the park in Longview in particular, and I'm really excited about it because I sat on a plane next to an alderperson. I missed the plane back, but thank God I caught the plane because we had a really good 2-hour talk about several things, talk that we probably needed to have, and we were able to see eye to eye beyond this table and reasons why I come up here usually. But in listening to talking about skiing, and I should have known it was water skiing where we were going. But ski for me in our community often means snow. So I thought ice. And I instantly went back to a conversation I had with our then park director back earlier this year about the parks and ideas and things we can do. And one idea was a skating rink, ice skating rink. And I thought that was a great idea, mainly because in my discussion with him, the cost of it, when you look at a city budget, if we're being bold enough and creative enough, is minuscule. And we have a structure that I didn't know until the time that is really good for it already in place. We just need to think forward and invest it in a little bit. And so sitting down talking with him a little bit, I pitched it to him, and we were able to, I had already talked to Alderperson Robinson being as in his ward, and I'm coming to you because I believe we had a good meeting and good discussions, and I think even I talked to Mayor Tones about it a little bit. I think I'm asking you as a council persons, alderpersons, to strongly consider being a seed, being the seed investment that we need to bringing a beautiful fountain / ice skating rink to the bottom of Longview park area, which I believe is discussed in our budget a little bit. I'm not the smartest guy in the room to know all the details, but I do know from the meeting that we've had and discussions we've had that it is possible. And that may mean, and I'm open to it, we need to think creatively with our friends of Longview, like we did with our friends of Douglas, which has raised more than $1, I learned. And that should be an encouragement. But I think, as I said before, a seed investment from the city will show how we're together and how we want to move forward and our belief in it, and then our citizens will get behind it. And so that's what I'm coming to you before, and that's why I'm here. But I do have to mention, and Mayor Tones, I will be 60 seconds or less on this, I promise, because, and I try not to mix things, so please forgive me for this. But I would be remiss if I did not speak to what I just heard here. and what I know, based off of what came before me. Heard a lot, and one thing I heard was we shouldn't be taking it personal, as far as their work and their endeavor and their wish and the desire to Pearson and Company, and Miss Natalie, I believe her name is, and their desire to bring a grant such as has been awarded to our community. I appreciate that, I really do. And 3 names, one being an auto person that was said, are different ages and are well known in the black community. If we're talking about black community, because I know it's an African American grant. We're talking about the black community and want to tell the black community story. The misunderstanding there is assuming that those 3 individuals who came to you with an issue are the sole people you needed to speak to. But if you're talking about telling a story, it's hard to tell the black story here in Rock Island and not coming across those 3 names. And so I'm here to say, very respectfully, I took that personally. And I try to keep things separate from personal. And I took it personally because for too long, and I think part of the reason why we went after this grant, I thank you for it, we recognize that for too long, we have not been able to be included in the story, even right here in the city at times. Believing that, and we can talk about abundance of projects that we have plans on in the city that never came to fruition. Not this council's fault, but it's fact. Talking about facts. We all know this. And so the arrogance, really, that's what it is. The arrogance to believe that you can come outside and the city should invest in you before you genuinely, wholeheartedly do the work with the people who already feel and have been unheard, and tell them that you're going to speak and help their voice be heard. That's not possible. And so I ask you guys to reconsider. We got to do this better. And more importantly, as importantly, council, very respectfully, I'll say I'm sorry for making this a personal thing, but that's how important it is to me. But I'll get back to my initial reasoning. Let's get this park done. We can make it an eyesore better and attract more traffic. And that is something, talking about investing in our community and talking about investing in seeing billboards of young people dying early. That community right there, she referenced the billboards. Imagine a beautiful fountain and an ice skating ring with lights and a shelter, a warming center where they can go. And I haven't ice skated, but I will look forward to ice skating with the kids that work with them day to day, so they won't end up on a billboard. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Adele Watts.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You're Dale Watts III from 9101 33rd Street West, Rock Island. Be a little remiss. I hear efforts in regards to time frame right now, and I had pretty long program planned, but I'm here in support, of course, of the Rock Island Public Library. And having listened to what I just did, it's pretty simple to understand that there could be misconceptions and misunderstandings about the way things are. So most of the information I have is secondhand, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, and I will be glad to stand corrected. But I look at a situation where we have a difference of opinion about some monies that are earmarked, supposedly earmarked for the library. And I almost, I have to speak on two sides of this, because I saw information that said that this possibly, our difference between our 7% and our 12% was monies that could possibly, that has a disagreement here between members of the council, that part of that money should be taken away from the library and possibly given to the King Center. I was here several weeks ago and listened to the director of the King Center's budget report, and I was amazed. He's done such a fantastic job, and everything was on point, and everything was in line with what it's supposed to be, and he seemed very happy. My information leads me to understand that he did not ask for this money. I also don't know for sure that you even have the power to take money away from the library to give to someone else, like the King Center or whatever. I have to make you understand also that I don't want to be known to pick on the King Center. I have a history with the King Center. I don't think anyone will deny the last, I don't know how many Thanksgivings that I've taken part down there. I was in the group of the original 100 that even considered bringing this to be a model city when Rock Island was proposed to do that. My wife was one of the grant writers, one of the principal grant writers for the construction of the King Center. So I don't want people to go out of here later and say that, well, he's picking on the King Center, or he's not, because I think Jerry will attest that I love the King Center. I hate to age myself, but in the beginning, before the building was there, we supplied trailer for the civil rights speeches that things were down there. I supplied trucks for the parade that they brought from the west, from all the way down 9th Street. When the bargain center was here and they were short money for Christmas, I got a group of guys together, or we got a group of guys together, and went with the bargain center and flooded the place with toys and gifts for things. Recently, if you remember when Ray Lomas was still alive, we put together a beautiful project. Those same people came forward, put together a project that raised funds that were funneled through the King Center to the track team and to the drum and bugle program. So, not to take anything away from my feelings about the King Center, I have very strong feelings about the King Center, but I also have feelings about the library. And I was in the group of people that hired Angela when she came here. And I'm going to tell you what, there are days that I look at her and I almost can't look her in the eye, because I haven't seen one quarter or one period of time where she has gotten to operate in the fashion that she was led to believe that this was going to be. I think sometimes you guys have the impression, or people of the city have the impression, that she does a fantastic job with what she's got. But what you don't realize is that she works a miracle every time somebody leaves or doesn't, or quits or whatever, and she works a miracle in that she doesn't replace them, which puts more work on other people and causes other kinds of problems. But she gets through and she gets by and makes it work. And I'm amazed at it. But it's now all of a sudden, when she's about to get some help where she comes here yearly and gets turned away like it's passé. There's nothing. It's not important. And all of a sudden now she's in a position where she can maybe operate properly, and we're saying, well, let's take part of that money away and give it to another program. You guys are elected to represent the entire city. You're not just the wards or the aldermanic districts that you're in for. It's time for the people that disagree to put on your big boy pants and do stuff for the entire city. So you need to take a good look at the library and do what's proper. Thank you.
Thank you. Normally, I don't interject, and we could have the city manager do everything else, but just as a clarification, there's been no money taken away from the library. They are getting an increase this year of 7.5%. Right, they asked for 12%-ish, give or take, and don't hold me right to all these numbers, a little over 12%. The budget came down as all departments had to try to work within constraints. And the last budget proposal that Linda Barnes had given and everything else, showed them at a 7.5% increase. And the park got an increase also, 10%, I think, or something. I can't remember the exact number. But those are still in the budget. Those have not been, nothing's been taken away, those increases, about $160-some thousand, I believe, correct? There was a alderperson that suggested the library get an additional $100,000 that would take them to 12%. And then that's where the other alderperson came back and said, instead, let's do it the Martin Luther King Center. And so that was I'll call it, if you want to call it internal, it was just because one alderperson threw that out there. The other person thought that they would, instead of the library, give it to Martin Luther King, that they did not officially ask for it. All departments could use the extra money. So, and I want to make sure it's clear that Martin Luther King is not pitting two departments against the other, Martin Luther King or the library. Nobody's losing from the last budget that we read. Didn't quite get the requested amount, but did get an increase. Last couple of years, there's been no increase. There is an increase this year. And I agree that it could use more. And so could MLK, and so could be the parks and everything else. So I just want to make sure there's understanding. There was nothing taken away, just that not the full request was given.
Well, and I'll talk about it later in the library, in the budget hearing, but that is not the information that was sent out in an email.
That is not,
Yeah, that is not correct. And I'll address that when we get to the
Okay.
budget, not to
So-
the public comment.
We'll finish public comments and work. Deb Freiberg.
Hi, my name's Debbie Freiberg. I live in Rock Island, born and raised, moved away and moved back. And when I moved back, one of the first places I went to is to go get a library card. The library belongs to all the people in Rock Island, children, elderly, school. I went there when I was in grade school, high school, college, and the library was there for me. Just going to tell you, I agree with everything Udell said, and I'm not going to repeat it. And the only thing I'm going to say is a little story. I have a niece. Her mother was Hispanic. She didn't graduate from high school, but she took all of her kids every week to the library. And one of those kids graduated from she graduated from Rocky, top of her class, and University of Iowa, is now a nurse in Iowa. And she says it's because her mother took her to the library. The library has no way of getting extra resources unless we charge more for our book fines. And, that's minuscule. So that's all I'm going to speak on.
That's fine.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. No, appreciate that. All right, that's all signed up. Is there anybody virtually? Nobody out there? Okay. I guess I would like to, two things. Item number 22 has been pulled from the agenda, just for everybody's knowledge. Item 22 has been pulled from the agenda. Second of all, on a very positive note, I'd like to, I guess, congratulate Linda Barnes for her promotion to Finance Director. Well deserved. Continues to be a great asset to the city. On a sad note, unfortunately, I'd like to read a statement. It reads, "It was with heavy heart that we, the members of the Rock Island Human Rights Commission, acknowledge and mourn the passing of Clayton C. Peterson. Clayton was a valued and active commissioner on the board for 14 years. Clayton rarely missed a meeting and was always willing to contribute to any way, including as secretary and investigator on many of these cases. Clayton generously and freely gave his time to the commission, many other organizations, and his beloved community. He lived a life of service and will be missed by many. We are deeply saddened at his departure, as are all, we were touched by his giving spirit and kindness. May his legacy of faith and service continue to inspire others and us. Sincerely, Janet Lockhart Johnson, representing the Rock Island Humans Commission." So we mourn that loss. Also, real quick, those that remember Linda Moore, the former city clerk, just lost her father also. So, a few sad notes, unfortunately, but, all right. We will move on to item number 7.
Minutes from the November 15th, 2021 City Council Budget Session, and minutes from the November 22nd, 2021 City Council meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert. Aye. Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item number 8.
Minutes of the November 22nd, 2021 closed session.
Move to approve the closed session minutes.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert. Aye. Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item number 9, update Rock Island. We have a couple items here. Tours of the Hauberg Estate every Friday in December from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. A December tour of the Hauberg is a great way to get into the holiday spirit. The mansion is beautifully decorated throughout. Tours last about an hour and cost $10 per person. Quad City Botanical Center Winter Night Winter Lights exhibit. The outdoor gardens are in the winter bloom with the over 160,000 glowing lights, showcasing their largest light display yet. Open through New Year's Day. Visit their website at www.qcgardens.com for further information. The Martin Luther King Center will host its 39th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Service and Awards on January 17th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. This event will be in person at the MLK Center, as well as a live stream video on Facebook and YouTube. This year's theme is consensus stance. The keynote speaker will be Mr. Thurgood Brooks. The MLK Center is seeking nominations for the I Have a Dream Award, ad placements for the souvenir booklet, and applications for 2 scholarships. More information and nomination of applicant forms can be found at mlkcenter.org/events. And then also, just for everybody, they talked about it earlier, State of the City speech will be January 10th at noon between with a joint meeting between Rotary and Kiwanis, and then also City Council meeting that same evening. We'll have the State of the City. And that's it. Item number 10.
Mayor Tomes will close the regular meeting and open a public hearing regarding the calendar year 2022 budget.
All right. So we'll close the regular meeting and open a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak or listen or talk or whatever it is about calendar year. Anybody?
I would,
Yes.
since I already alluded to it. So I want to address the library budget. So aldermen were sent an email asking for support for 4 items pertaining to budget changes or updates. One was using excess fund balance to balance the general fund budget. A second was, are you comfortable with an 85 to 89-day reserve or stay at 90 days? 3 was support additional $100,000 to the library, which was requested by them. 4, support an additional $60,000 to parks, which was requested by them. We were asked for input on approval or disapproval of each of those 4 items. Suddenly, I found out that some of the aldermen had requested that the additional $100,000 not be given to the library, that they only be given the 7% and not the 12%, which we were asked to support, but instead that money be given to another department that had not asked for it. Now, I am the first one to say that every city department could use an extra $100,000. So this is not about that, it's not about any other department, but it's 100% about not giving it to the library when the library requested it and when it comfortably would fit into our budget. As Udell Watts stated, every single solitary year, the library comes before this council and asks for funding and is never given the funding that it asked for. It's not even given half the funding that it's asked for. We've heard in public comment today, I have received emails, I have received phone calls, and we have the presence of the Library Board and the Library Foundation Board here tonight supporting the library, and that states that the community support for our library is high. The library embarked on a $7.8 million capital campaign for a new library. They have raised over $7.5 million with no, as in zero, support financially from the city. It is all from the community. The community supports the library. I would like to ask my peers on council to state whether they do or do not support the library, and if you feel that they should not get the $100,000 they requested, then why not? I think it's time that the council publicly states whether they support the library or if they don't support the library. And if you do support the library, then we need and must give them support. And in retrospect to that, I would like to ask each of the council members to state, do you or do you not support the library? Because the library provides so many free resources to this community. The library has books, it has audio books, it has a collection of things. If you want to take your kids fishing, you can check out fishing poles and you can check out tackle. If you want to do sewing, you can check out items for that. You can check out tools. You can check out baking supplies. There is so much the library gives back to this community for free. During the pandemic, families and children could check out hotspots so they could continue to learn and go to school at home when they did not have broadband or anything else to help them. And the library does all of this for free. The library generates zero revenue from anything other than fines. And we can increase our fines, but then that takes away the whole concept of a free public library. So I am strongly in support of giving the library the 12.5% funding that they asked, and going back to the email where aldermen were specifically asked to vote on giving the additional $100,000 to the library, and I am still stunned and really amazed that there was even a discussion to not give them that money that they asked for and reallocate it somewhere else.
I would like to add to that. So in support of Alderwoman Swanson here, that I was as well blindsided by this. We were, factually, she is correct, we were given these particular options on requested funds from the library, and not taking anything away from the MLK Center or any other department, but I felt it was wrong that I personally approved it. I'll be honest, I'll come forward and say I approved the $100,000. But then we get the surprise email, no, it's a split between the alderpersons. So I did make a phone call just to find out that an alderperson had approached them and then contacted another alderperson regarding that without letting without the rest of us knowing about this. So it was really a blindsided, to me, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call particular people out, but it was a blindsided move, and I think it was wrong that requested funds were pulled away. I mean, again, Jerry does a great job, but the fact is he didn't request it. The library did request it. So
As an alderman who advocated for the additional funding, I'm certainly happy to provide the library with the 7.5% increase that they are getting at this time. As an alderman who advocated that the extra funding on top of that be allocated to the King Center, I'm not entirely sure that this is a fair characterization of my decision-making process, at least. If you look at the CIP budget, there are a number of line items that was requested by the MLK Center regarding the maintenance of their building. If you recall the budget presentation, we are talking about holes in roofs. We're talking about siding falling off the building, soffits in disrepair. that were requested but not recommended by administration for funding. So I don't think it's entirely fair to suggest that the MLK Center did not request any additional funding. Now, admittedly, it's not in the general budget. It was in the CIP budget, but, we're having an argument about, the word is escaping me at the moment, but you get what I'm trying to say. I am more than happy to advocate that both departments get an additional $100,000. I don't know what my colleagues' thoughts are on that, but, making a budget is always a complicated and unpopular process. Everybody, like has been said here, wants more money, and we simply cannot give everybody everything that they want. And while I totally agree that the library has been shorted year after year, and I have supported increases in years past, the King Center similarly has been treated as such. And so I just thought I would advocate that additional funding be allocated to the King Center to address some of their building needs. I'm curious to hear from my colleagues as to what your thoughts are on not splitting the baby. I was equally shocked when I received the email from City Manager Tweet about how the decision was just to say, well, since no consensus can be made, nobody gets any money. I don't think that that's entirely the end point that any of us are particularly happy with, but here we are having the discussion. So I don't see why we don't just give them both additional funding.
Dylan, with all due respect, I felt it was, I'm not sure, I felt like it was very inappropriate that certain council people were contacted regarding this particular idea and others were not, just to gain support and to split this. And to me, that's a very non-communicative way of getting it, like, to even express what the opinions are. So we don't even know this is coming up until we get this email. So the fact that not all the council was even, nowhere along the way was there ever an email or a contact from the three that voted the other way to split it. I know I never received an email or a contact, and I don't believe a couple other alderpersons at this table have either. And I just felt it's the lack of transparency and the lack of communication that's why we're sitting here having this discussion tonight.
Let me make a comment. So during the discussion or the budget presentations, it was clear that there was a need at the Martin Luther King Center. Yeah, he didn't request funds, but that was just him being the director of the building, that he knows he has shortfalls and not to kind of air dirty laundry. But for someone who treats the King Center as a second home from probably when it was built, I've seen the disparities between the city and the funding shortages that building continues to have. There's holes in the roof, as Alderman Parker mentioned. When the winter is there, you have ice built up and just pours down on the patrons as they come through the front door, which is a safety hazard. You have HVAC issues where you have staff that are wearing coats, staff that have heaters at their desks because the building is hot on one side, cold on the other side, or there's no in between. You have volunteers who have to do the lawn care. You have volunteers who have to do the snow cleaning because they don't have the maintenance to get that stuff done. The roof wouldn't have holes if they had the budget for maintenance. Right now, what we're telling the King Center is it has to break before we fix it. You have to put it into a CIP in order for someone to recognize that there's a problem. Am I a supporter of the library? Yes. I supported them by giving them 7.5%. I don't know what happened before me, before I came on this council. That's not my issue at this point. I am in support of the library, but I'm also in support of fixing something that needs to be fixed. If I see a building that's within the city of Rock Island, which we are supposed to be the stewards of, and it's damaged, you have kids that go in there daily. On an average, 70 to 80 kids go there on a daily, but they are putting up with those conditions all the time. If there was an opportunity, which we thought it was, to please both, you're giving the library something that they didn't receive before. They're getting a 7.5%, $160,000. And then if you can increase the King Center, where they can actually get a cleaning staff to come in. They can't even afford to get a cleaning staff. They have a volunteer that comes in to clean the building during COVID. But we're made to pick sides right now. That's ridiculous. That is not what I ran for. I didn't run to come in here and have high school debates about which side I have to choose on. My job is to make sure that the city is running. Buildings should be able to be presentable to the community. The King Center serves well over, I can't even mention the number, but there's way more people from the first ward that come to that facility. We're about to have a celebration in January, and they're going to be faced with having to, if you've ever been there on the Martin Luther King celebration, there's a team that have to come 2 hours before with bags of ice to break up all the ice from the hole that's in the roof that's coming down into the entrance. You have to have someone there before to make sure that the holes are patched up because we have no money in the budget for maintenance. Basic things that this building needs. Yes, I'm in support of the library. I'm also in support of making sure that facilities are to the T where they need to be, at least operational. The department has never been funded fully. People have a misnomer that everything's perfect down there. They see the programming. They see the grant dollars. Those are grant funds for specific things, not maintenance. The city's part is to control the building and the maintenance. It has not been doing that for years. That's why we're in the position we're in right now. And it's ridiculous that this has to come to council this way because someone goes out and gives false information. I had a number of people calling me, emailing me, texting me. Why are you taking away money from the library? We didn't. We actually gave you a portion of what you requested, yes. But when I noticed that there was an issue going on with one of the buildings, and I would do that with any building within the city of Rock Island. If the Park and Rec building had a hole in the roof, I would do the exact same thing. If Public Works, this building, had a hole in the building, I would do the exact same thing. It had nothing to do with it being in the First Ward, the King Center, or the library. There was a need that needed to be met. That's why the budget was discussed that way. We got to get out of this going back and forth all the time. If we're going to work together as a team, we got to stop these backdoor communications like we said before. We want trust. That's why we have other business on our agenda, but we don't discuss stuff there. We have these powwows individually, and then we get mess like this. Now you got sides going against each other. And it's ridiculous. We got to do better, y'all. We have to.
Okay, I'm going to interject. There's no one's negating, no one's denying anything that you've said about the needs. I think the biggest issue here is you talk about backdooring and being transparent, but I never got a call from anybody of the three. I never got an email from anybody about the three. I don't believe Alderwoman Swanson received an email. You want to talk about having these conversations, so we're not having them here. Why were none of us involved? And we're totally in agreement.
My email came from the city manager. I didn't hear anything from anyone else. I got the email from the city manager. I've been out for a while.
What did that email say? Because I didn't.
My
get that
decisions,
email.
my decisions based on the options.
Okay, where does it say the MLK on here, though? It doesn't say it on there, is what my point being.
So I can go to my email and find it
I've
if
got
that's
it right
needed.
here, if you'd like to look it up. What I'm saying
Okay,
is.
let's not,
No, hold on.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, these conversations, and I agree, they should not be held here, but guess what? When we're not getting communication about these things from anybody else, and we get surprised by them, well, guess what? Now we're bringing them up. Didn't have to be this way. We're not arguing about anything about what you're talking about.
But there's a way to bring it up.
Okay.
There's a
Yes,
better way to bring it up.
communicated with
Don't
us
say
about
you
it.
guys when I wasn't part of that part. Don't do that.
Okay, did you vote? How did you vote?
I voted with 7.5 for the library and 100,000 to the King Center.
Okay, so.
Just like I stated in my statement.
Okay.
Don't put me into that.
Okay, fair enough.
did Judith or Mark would want to add anything to that?
I just have a question regarding to the public hearing for
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, that's exactly, we're in the public hearing part.
Public hearing.
That's correct.
And because the memo for the budget is in the public hearing, I had constituents ask questions. So before anybody can comment during this time, perhaps Linda, our finance director, could come up and explain to the public what they're looking at in terms of page 2 on that memo, what those numbers represent, and people were asking, could you please explain what eliminations are? So that's one thing. And then does this document that ultimately will become the ordinance, does this show what funds have deficits or negative cash balances? So if you could just educate the public a bit.
Okay, so which one do we want to start? Property tax levy or budget ordinance? Because we've got two separate.
No, I'm looking
items
at the
here.
memo for the public hearing.
Okay,
So it lists all these funds.
right.
So if you could just give an overview
Okay,
of what,
so-
what people are looking at.
So what this represents are the expenses for each fund for the upcoming year for CY 2022.
Right.
So just the expenses only.
So then the second question is, people wanted to know, could you explain, I know you've explained it to me several times, but people want to know, at the bottom it says, or no, on the third page, what, less eliminations, $25 million. Could you explain to the public what eliminations are?
So eliminations, since we're just looking at expenses, we are subtracting duplications. So there are, for example, transfers. So transfers from one department to another department. And we use expense codes for those transfers. However, the department that's receiving the money, they also budget expenses. So in order not to have two, like I said, duplicate expenses, we back out those, one set. So that's what the eliminations are. Reducing those transfers so you don't get double, so you don't count twice.
Right. Okay, then the final question that was put to me was, so of the funds, does this show what funds have deficits or negative cash balances?
It does not, because when you're talking cash balances, that's the balance statement. This represents expenses, which would be the income statement. Or expenses only.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining that.
Is there any comment, is open to the public? Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns with the 2022 budget? Not hearing any. Anybody else at the table? You certainly can.
I just want to thank everyone that came in support of the library and the kind words that were stated. And I know nobody is trying to pit one department over the other, because if you look at our departments, we work together all the time with parks, with the King Center, et cetera. I think my personal issue as a taxpayer, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I
Yes.
think, is when the budget was presented, parks and the library had a 7.5% increase. I don't know what the King Center's really is, because they're a little bit different funded than we are. And then all of a sudden, when the agenda came out Friday, Parks had a 10% increase, ours stayed the same, and then I heard about the whole King Center thing. So as a taxpayer, it wasn't transparent from the beginning. And then another issue that you're gonna vote on tonight is the change in the CIP and all these other things you're adding to that. That wasn't presented to the public either. And I don't know what your conversation will be about that, but, you know, 300,000 to Dari and 174,000 to this, and those weren't in the original CIP that was presented. So King Center with the hole in the roof, we've had that so many years too. That's the money that should go to them. I totally agree. They got to get their building in order. We've spent millions of dollars since I've been here on that. And so our building is not very welcoming on the inside, but you know what? It doesn't take on water anymore. We have a new roof, we have a new HVAC. How are we going to pay for that? We're just going to have to. And like Udell said, it might be because we haven't replaced staff. We've had to move money around. If there's a way to do it, I'm frustrated as a department head that this comes down to the week before you have to legally pass the budget, and we don't have these conversations in May when we start working on it. So I just had to get that off my chest. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to let Alderperson Swanson know, because she asked for everybody's input, so like it or not, I'm going to give you mine. I received a phone call, and the question was, would you support giving $100,000 to Martin Luther King Center? I said, absolutely. I like the work that's being done down there. They do a lot of good for a lot of folks. I later learned that it was not an either or. It was a, do you support the Martin Luther King Center? Absolutely I do. But the library is losing $100,000. And I felt a little bit betrayed or a little bit misinformed. I won't say betrayed, that's not the correct word, but misinformed as to, you know, are we being asked to choose between one or the other? Clearly, both of them, every department in the city needs money. I can go to every single department and ask them, what would you do with an extra $100,000? Fire department would probably have more AEDs or cots or firefighting equipment. You know, the police department has other needs as well. I really am disappointed that we have come to this conversation, that we have to choose between one or the other. I am in full support of the library because they didn't get. And I later found out that the director for the King Center didn't ask for that money. So if that's the situation, then, you know, I don't think we need to be asking for between one or the other. If the directors need the money, they need to come to council and say, this is what we need, this is why we need it, and then it's our job to turn over every stone that we can to make sure that they have the resources they need to operate their departments in an efficient manner. And I'm not saying that they don't, because I think Jerry does a phenomenal job down there. And I think the library is gone so long with nothing that, you know, it is a very tough decision. And again, I don't think we should choose between one or the other. I do think that if a department head needs the money, he needs to come before us and says, I need the money for this. Because I did ask, I said, well, what is the $100,000 going to be used for? Siding on a brick building. I had a hard time with that. Now, if it's the roof, yes, let's get the roof fixed.
Got to familiarize ourselves with the building.
I'm sorry?
Parts of the King Center, there is siding on the extension with the roof. The brick part is the old original building.
Did you want to say something?
I have a budget statement I'll read under that item.
Okay.
At some point, I would just like to.
Yes, Dylan?
Real quick, Alderperson Polis, I would just remind you that in our communication on December the 4th that I'm looking at right now, I made it pretty clear that that I was in support of the additional $100,000 that staff scrounged up, was the language that I used, because this whole process is puzzling. I would rather see it allocated to the King Center instead of the library. So, you know, just to make sure that we are remembering how communications went. It sounds like, and I can certainly understand from my colleague's perspective, that if there was a sense of betrayal or going around people's backs, I can understand that, but I just want to make sure that, I was trying to be very forward with you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. We have a gentleman here that would like to speak.
Yes, my name is Edward Yancey, and I am a member of the community. And I didn't plan on standing here, but I heard something that I was kind of shocking and/or disappointing. I used to sit on the board of the King Center some years ago, and maintenance was an issue. And to hear that it still is an issue is kind of disappointing. Now, I heard someone say that the King Center is part of the city of Rock Island. I've heard someone say that if the director didn't ask for it, et cetera, et cetera. As I'm thinking as a citizen here in Rock Island, any one of us, if you see something wrong with the building, you'll probably make an inquiry or ask or something. But I'm hearing about things that was going on during the time I was on the board. And I thought those issues were solved. And I'm kind of disappointed here, and I would encourage you to find a way to get the building fixed.
Thank you.
Because you're talking about things that were going on during the time that I was on the board, and I think that needs to be cleaned up.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, Mayor Tomes, City Manager Tweet, all the alder people, City Attorney and City Clerk. My name's Elizabeth Russell. I live in 901 20th Street, Rock Island. That would be in Moses Robinson's first ward. I happen to be appointed to the board of the library, so I'm one of the trustees and have been for more than one term. And I also am on the Rock Island Library Foundation Board. I am completely flabbergasted, especially by what I'm hearing from you, Dylan Parker. It sounds to me that you are publicly admitting to the fact that you were the person who instigated this backdoor, I don't know what you guys call it on city council. I am part of an organization that has to adhere to open meeting acts, which is the guidelines that all of us have to go through. I'm not sure if you took the time to take that course, but we have to, being on the board. I have to sit and listen to the budget every single month for the years that I've been on the board. Angela has not ever gotten the increases that she's asked for. I'm so sorry to hear that the Martin Luther King Center is in disrepair. My husband and I have been writing a check to donate to the Martin Luther King Center, and we support the Martin Luther King Center and everything that it does. But that, to me, is not the issue here. When I sit on the board, I don't know if you realize, but 3031 was a sinkhole of HVAC issues, among other things. And that's one of the reasons why it closed. And do you know how many times I've had to hear people tear me down as a person who sat on the library board when that building had to be closed? That was a hard decision to make. I didn't hear the city council giving us money to help keep that popular branch open. Now we have found an alternative solution. We are working in tandem with the YMCA, and as has been stated already, citizens, organizations have ponied up over $7 million, no thanks to the City of Rock Island's council. During a pandemic, I was shocked and so thrilled by the hard work of people like former Mayor Schwiebert and Udell Watts and a whole host of other people. So to me, when we sit down and look at our budget, we go through the proper channels. If something needs to be fixed, then everything has to have a proper protocol. So I'm not saying that the Martin Luther King Center doesn't deserve more money. I sure hope you guys figure out a way to get those things repaired. But to take it away from another organization that has clearly shown the need is infuriating. So with all due respect, I want the Martin Luther King Center to have everything it needs. But if it has a need, then it needs to go through the proper channels. to get the funding. And I hope that they do. But I'm just asking everybody to follow the proper protocol. And I think it's a violation of Open Meetings Act to hear about this backdoor, politicaling, I don't know what you guys call it. I'm not a politician, so I don't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. The Open Meeting Act, long as there's not three people in a group talking about it at one time, then it's not a violation of the Open Meeting Act.
Sounded like it was more than 3 people.
Not at one time. I'm talking about one time. That's correct.
Emails count in Open Meetings
Correct.
Act.
And I don't know if there was. I didn't see that.
Yeah, so I sent out the email. Let me just, a little clarification maybe on how this all happened. The email was sent out blind copy to all the aldermen, so they don't see any of the other aldermen on there, and they can't reply to the other aldermen, so they replied only to me. That is not a violation of the Open Meetings Act. When we first brought the budget to council in November, we were still looking at a $3 million deficit, or a $3 million gap between revenue and expenditures. So library and parks were both in the budget at that time as a 7.5% increase, because we did not have the additional funds at that point to recommend that to council that those be funded, because we were trying to fill this $3 million gap. Thanks to a lot of work by the other departments that came up with hundreds of thousands of dollars of cuts, so no department gets what they want, I can tell you that on the budget. They don't, and they made hundreds of thousands of dollars in cuts. Hard work by the finance team led by Linda Barnes. We were able to bring that down where we had a comfortable reserve of around 90 days, which is where we want to be. And then we were able to look at, could we fund the full request from the Parks and Library? That would take us under our 90-day reserves. So I sent an email out to all the aldermen. All right, first of all, are you comfortable with using reserves? Because I know some weren't. Are you comfortable going below 90 days? Do you want to fund the additional request to the library? Everybody, it was already public that we were publishing, or we're pushing the 7.5%. Do you want to take it to 12%, 12.5%? And do you want to fund the additional money for parks? I did not get a majority of the aldermen that wanted to support the additional $100,000 for the library. We were in a situation where we had to close the budget at some point and publish it. There's a lot of documents that Linda and her team have to do, and we can't just keep doing that forever. So what I told the council was, it's not in the budget for either the library or the King Center. And if the council wants, we can make it a budget adjustment once this budget is passed and add additional funds, which would eat into our reserves. It's a little over $100,000 is a day of reserves, just for clarification. So that's how it came about. So if anyone has any questions about that, they could contact me.
We could realistically, at the first January meeting, ask for a budget adjustment, giving the $100,000 to the library and an additional $100,000 to the MLK Center?
And dig into reserves to do that, make an adjustment.
You could do that, yes.
Okay.
Now, it wouldn't show up, with the library, it would not show up on their tax levy, because that's already set. So we can't change that at this point. It would just show up as they got their tax levy, that's a 7.5% increase, and then there's an additional $100,000 from the city.
So Randy,
So the net would be the same.
sorry to keep interrupting you, Randy.
No.
It's hard to do this mobile. So just to continue with what Alderperson Swanson was saying there, so we're sitting at 90, the budget as presented is sitting at 90-day reserves. If we want to pass this budget and pass a budget adjustment in January to give both departments the additional $100,000 each, we would be looking at having 88 days worth of reserves. A 2-day
approximately, but, we've now had, by the end of January, we'll have 3 resignations in the general fund. That's already saving money there once somebody resigns, because there's a gap before you fill it. So, the budget is fluid, whether it would take us all the way down to 88 days or, whether it be 87 or 91, we're right in that range. So the council could certainly do that if they wished.
Well, again, I'm in favor of that idea.
I mean,
I don't know what my
if
colleagues
you
think.
remember, throughout the year, we bring budget adjustments. You know, oftentimes, there's some funds, CDBG funds I'll use, we don't know exactly where we're going to finish the year. So once we do that, then there's a budget adjustment to bring those funds forward.
So it's not an either or.
I'm supportive of that.
So if that comes forward in January, though, Randy, can you have available at that time updated numbers based on those resignations and how much further we'd have to go into reserves, or maybe we wouldn't?
We can do a guesstimate on that.
Well, that would be useful
I
information
mean, everything
for
right
me.
now, honestly, when I say we're at 90-day reserves, that's a projection, right, based on
Right,
everything.
right,
And so,
everything's-
like, when I say it could be 91, it could be 88, but we're right on that target. So saying on any given day, are we at 90 days? Well, we're not, because our revenues don't come in on a regular basis. So the property taxes, which is a big revenue, doesn't necessarily, we don't get that every month. You know, it comes in periodically throughout the year, but we can give you an estimate of what that would look like.
All right, we're still in open meeting. Is there anybody else wish to speak? All right, I'm going to close the open meeting and reopen the general or the city council meeting. All right, so we are at item number 11.
Changes to the city's hotel motel ordinance, second reading.
Move to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just would like to, whoever put this together, I'd just like to thank you for highlighting the changes in red.
That would be Linda.
Linda, thank you, Linda.
Roll call.
Alderperson Hertz.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item number 12.
Tax Abatement Resolutions, A through P.
We have a motion.
Motion to adopt the tax abatement resolutions A through P as recommended and direct the finance director to file them with the county clerk.
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hertz.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 13.
Claims. A, report from the Martin Luther King Jr. Center regarding final payment in the amount of $38,890.61 to Enterprise Community Partners for consulting services in the city's west corridor. B, report from the Human Resources Department regarding payment in the amount of $11,935.19 to David G. Morrison, City Attorney, for services rendered during the month of November 2021.
Motion to allow claims item A and B.
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion?
I just have a question. What is the total amount we paid, the city paid, to Enterprise Community Partners? Does anybody know that?
Mr. Jones.
The total amount of the contract was $80,000, which we paid half of it through Community Economic Development dollars, correct? And the other half was paid by John Deere.
So this 38,890, does that represent our half?
He represents our half, correct? But, no, let me say that again, I'm sorry. $20,000 of that has been paid to us that will be included, so that the remaining 18 is our portion of the remaining bill. So we've already paid them 80 minus the 38, and we have split it down the middle all the way down. This has been a two-year contract because of COVID.
Okay. Well, I hope we'll, at some point, hear more about the recommendations made on the assessment.
Yep, that's going to be on the agenda at some point in time soon.
Great.
Very good. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hertz.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 14.
Claims for the week of November 15th through November 28th, 2021, in the amount of $640,295.74. November 19th through December 2nd, 2021, in the amount of $2,200,000 $212,353.96, and payroll for the weeks of November 15th through November 28th, 2021, in the amount of $1,500,204.71.
Move to allow the claims and payroll.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 15.
Report from the Public Works Department regarding bids for the water wastewater treatment chemical purchases.
Motion to approve the bids is recommended and authorize the purchases.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 16.
Report from the Fire Department regarding an addendum to the intergovernmental agreement for the P25 emergency radio system.
Motion to approve the addendum to the intergovernmental agreement and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 17.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a lease renewal agreement with TBK Bank for an ATM drive-through.
Motion to approve the lease agreement as recommended, subject to minor attorney modifications, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 18.
Report from the Finance Department regarding an ordinance for the levy, assessment, and collection of property taxes for the city of Rock Island for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, first reading.
Motion to consider the ordinance as recommended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll
Can
call.
I-
Was that something, Dylan?
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit our potential plan here. Is there consensus amongst us that that's kind of what we want to do?
This is the tax levy, Dylan.
Yeah, this is tax levy
Sure.
versus the next one.
Right.
No, sure.
Just not, I mean, it could be discussed either one, but you want to wait till the next one?
I,
Thank you.
sure.
Is that a typo in the agenda? Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 19.
Report from the Finance Department regarding an ordinance adopting the budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, first reading.
Move to consider the ordinance as recommended.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Now, Dylan.
I mean, I would, not the first time I voted down a levy, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if it wasn't the right place, but, yeah, I don't know. What's everybody's thoughts on this idea? I'm fine with it. I like it, but it's sort of contingent on, we all got to jump together.
Anybody want to comment, or? I guess he's looking for he's looking for consensus on, in January, we come back and make an adjustment.
Yes, I'm in support of that, Dylan.
I'm in support of that. As I had mentioned to Jerry Jones, if the King Center needs money, then I'm going to be the first one to step up and try to find it.
Yep, correct.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes.
So I have a statement regarding this budget. First of all, I'd like to thank all the staff for their hard work on the budget, especially Finance Director Linda Barnes, Assistant City Manager Jeff Yerke, and City Manager Randy Tweet. I would also like to thank staff for their answers to my questions and explaining their department operations. I have grave concerns about this budget and the budget process itself. We have no real finance committee overseeing the budget, and I was only appointed to the finance committee on November 1st, 2 weeks before departments presented their budgets. Typically, a finance committee meets throughout the fiscal year to oversee the budget and make budget recommendations. The city's budget is designed not to be transparent or easy to understand for council members and for the public. This has got to change. The city has relied for years on using reserves or savings to balance what has been annual deficit budgets. This strategy avoids dealing with the hard facts. We are not objectively analyzing needs and wants, essential services, and nice-to-have services. We're using reserves to balance the budget, but we continue to fund non-essential operations that are bleeding red ink. In my opinion, that makes no sense. Residents can see the folly of both using savings and continuing to fund operations. When looking at the cold, hard numbers, we can no longer afford some of these. Residents get it. We owe it to them to do better starting January 3rd, 2022. I keep in regular touch with many of my constituents. They always know where I stand on an issue, and they keep in touch and let me know their opinions and concerns. For these reasons, I will be voting no on the calendar year 2022 budget.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Nay.
Swanson.
Yes.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item number 20.
Report from the Fire Department amending Chapter 6, Article 4, Section 6-63 of the City Code of Ordinances, recommending an increase in fees for ambulance emergency services, first reading.
Motion to approve the increase in fees and consider the amended ordinance.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion?
Yes. This would be for the chief. Is he here?
Fire chief.
Thanks, Jeff. Just a couple questions here. So thank you for sending me that information earlier today. And I was doing the comparisons between Rock Island and Moline, and just get a basic, what is driving the increase? Is it cost of supplies, and where is this extra revenue where is it going to benefit them? I mean, does this go back to the fire department, to the city general? I'm not sure, where does this increase go?
Yeah, so our ambulance billing, just the revenue generated from that comes back into the general fund to fund, city operations and city services. The reason we're asking for this increase is it's been 2 years since we asked for a previous increase. Typically, what I do in concert with the finance department is we look at the different rate surveys that are out there, look at our like communities, and we kind of see what the average is. What's the average rate that some of our neighboring communities, all throughout the state, in fact, that are charging. And then we try to, the metric we utilize, going back to when Stephanie Masson was the finance director, is 10% above the average. So that's why we're asking for the slight increase. In addition, you'll notice in the amendment, or the attachment, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Rogers asked for a slight increase in supplies as well. Again, our costs for supplies continually go up every year. And like I mentioned, the last time we asked for an increase was 2 years ago.
So what is the purpose of the 10, to the above the 10%? I'm just trying to figure out where that number.
That was just a metric that we selected when I started working with the finance department when I first started as chief. We kind of looked at the average of what everybody else was charging, and then we just charged 10% above that.
So, although I didn't ask you for East Molines, how are they comparable? Because I noticed on here Moline is quite a bit less than we are for basic life support, advanced life support too.
Yeah, I only included Moline because they're a transport ambulance service. East Moline does not have a transport ambulance service. So one of the guides that I use, Medic, EMS, and Davenport, each year does a rate survey it includes about 36 or 37 local EMS providers. And what they do is it comes up with an average, and then we just base our costs, or our rates on that average of their survey. And so that's where we get a lot of our data from.
Okay, a couple more quick questions. As I was reading through the document, the base fee for medical administration went from $5 to $35. Why is that such a high increase?
Again, it's just, it's because this was, I'm sorry, let me grab the, yeah, this was recommendation by Lieutenant Rogers, who's our EMS coordinator, just based on the cost of supplies.
It went up that much?
Which area are you talking?
It's base fee for medical administration.
Yeah, so what that includes is you're talking syringe, needle, other supplies that our paramedics have to administer that medication with. And so he's just recommending the base increase to $35. And not only that, just because of the risk involved with administering these medications.
Well, what was the base fee prior to 2020? Do you have that number by chance? I mean, that just seems like a huge increase to me.
Sure. Yeah, and we can make adjustments to this if you so desire.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to justify it. To me, that's a huge increase. And the other one was the base fee for wound management went from $5 to $25. The other ones seemed pretty reasonable, but those particulars stuck out as huge increases, and I'm trying to understand, I don't know too much that's went up that much.
Yeah, and you'll notice that any of these supplies that we use are included in that wound management fees, and just prices on those different wound management types of dressings go up. And some of these may have been undervalued over the years. Some of these may go back, 10 years. And so I had them reevaluate all these and come up with a recommendation.
Okay, I mean, I'm going to approve it. I'm just saying I think somebody needs to take a closer look at, maybe where you guys are getting your supplies, because that's a huge increase in my opinion.
May I ask a question? And my understanding is that our expenses are still higher than our income for ambulance or EMT. Is that correct? So it's running in the red.
Correct.
Okay.
System alone. What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, great service.
Totally
Rock
understand.
Island gets
Just doing
standing ovation
comparisons, we
by a
just
lot
seem
of
to be
people
quite a
about
bit
the
higher than
service.
Moline was.
Yeah,
But
because
even if it's high, we are still running in the red in the
Yeah, because even if we charge
Yeah.
a certain amount, Medicare will only pay this much.
Okay.
And so we suffer a loss from that, so.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes?
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson? Aye. Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item 21.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding the sale of city-owned property located at 1013 4th Avenue, PIN 073-442-4015 to Kimberly Castillo Cineros and Miguel Cineros Chicoa for $978 plus closing
Yeah.
costs, first reading.
But
Motion to approve the sale is recommended. Excellent job.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Authorize the city manager to execute the sale agreement and consider the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Say that 5 times fast.
That's exact. I couldn't have said it one time. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes?
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 23.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding the sale of city-owned property located at 3000 Fifth Avenue, PIN 0736-401-001, to Thomas Hughes for $500 plus closing costs, first reading.
Move to approve the sale as recommended, authorize the city manager to execute the sale agreement and consider the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes?
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
24.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding an ordinance rezoning R2 1 and 2 unit residence to a B1 neighborhood business to Simon Nadabisiera for property located at 3142 11th Street, first reading.
Motion to approve the rezoning and consider the ordinance.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 25.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding sale of city-owned properties to Habitat for Humanity for $1 each plus closing costs. First reading. A. 217 10th Street, pin 07344-14003. B. 219 10th Street, pin 07344-14008. C. 1019 3rd Avenue, pin 07344-23004. D. 317 9th Street, pin 07344-12006. E. 320 9th Street, pin 07344-10010. F. 829 30 through 31 4th Avenue, pin 07344-10018. G. 901 4th Avenue, pin 07344-12007. And H. 606 6th Street, pin 07344-06009.
Motion to approve the sale of the city-owned properties A through H as recommended. Authorize the city manager to execute the sales agreement and consider the ordinance.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion?
So this mean that Habitat is planning on building some homes?
Yes.
So as mentioned in the report, at this time, they don't have any immediate plans to build. So in the short term, the answer is no. But one of the things that's also mentioned in that ordinance is that the reason that they have a hard time building on this side of the river, because they're doing quite a lot of building on the Iowa side, is that on the Iowa side, they have home dollars. On this side, we don't have home funds. So this is looking further into the future. They own some adjacent properties to these, so selling these to them will make those properties more buildable in the future. It's also, and you may have noticed if you're reading a lot of property pins, if they are all very similar, it's because they're all right next to each other. They like to cluster their houses, as Alderman Robinson knows very well. So we're selling them a set of clustered properties to make it a little more attractive in the future for them to do some development. So there's kind of two parts to this. One is just makes sense for them to get the properties put together in a more reasonable fashion physically. But second, to kind of let you all know that, there is interest should we at some point be able to secure additional funds to help them build on this side of the river.
Thank you.
Miles, so when you say home funds, you're referring to HUD home funds?
That's
On
correct.
this side of the river, as opposed to the next item has another home program with that acronym.
Yeah, the home,
So-
different, totally different,
Right, I just
unrelated.
want
We just love
people
an
to-
acronym, that's all. We just love those.
Yeah.
And it does, and I should point out, there could be other sources of funding that we could help Habitat with. So I'm just throwing home funds out there as the obvious thing, because that's what they're using across the river. But really, if there was any other source of funding, Habitat is eager to build here. We've really been trying to re-engage Habitat and other partners. They do the sort of infill housing development we really need, especially in that area. So putting these properties into their hands, just kind of moving in the right direction, even though we're not going to see any houses, unfortunately, going up, say, in the next year or anything like that.
Good.
Miles, so it sounds like staff has already been in talks with Habitat for Humanity in this long-term scope of, hey, the whole reason that we did this house rehab was because eventually we're going to go for home dollars with HUD, and now, now we're talking, or I don't know, however long staff has been talking to Habitat for Humanity, and I assume the conversations there have been, hey, we're going after these home dollars, we know you use them. I guess what I'm getting at is, who all is staff talking to, and what other partners have we solicited? I'm thinking of Economic Growth Corporation. They do similar stuff, and they're here in Rock Island, or other entities. And I guess really what I'm getting at here is I don't know anything about this, and that's concerning. And we had something flare up with respect to the rehab property because council wasn't aware of what conversation staff was having. or what your long-term plans were. So I guess I would just advise you that I'm getting a sense here that there's a lot of discussions going on that we are not privy to, and it just might be good to make sure everyone's on the same page before we get to a point where something flares up again.
So I can certainly address this specific thing. A few weeks ago is when we reached out to Habitat to talk about this. Of course, one of the things that has been a topic of conversation in recent months is the selling of city-owned property, making sure that's publicly available, making people aware that they might be next to things that they could buy from the city for a very agreeable price. And we kind of looking at things again, we noticed that Habitat owned some stuff next to things we owned. We talked to them basically a few weeks ago, inviting them to the office and just saying, hey, what's going on? We haven't chatted with you for a while. Would you be interested in buying some of these properties? They said yes. And so it ended up on this agenda. And it's really pretty much as simple as that. The kinds of conversations that staff more broadly are having with organizations like Habitat and others are really just at the stage of, getting back in contact. As some of the folks on the council will know, many of the other department heads as well, in recent years, we may not have been as closely knit to some of our partner organizations. In recent years, we have striven to reconnect with them. That is seen through our partnership with Dari, our partnership with the Chamber and others. These are just the same sorts of conversations that have been happening right in front of the council, continuing to move forward. There's plenty of other projects that different organizations might come to us that are in very preliminary stages that would not be appropriate to discuss publicly because there's still a lot of details to be sorted out. That's staff's job to have those conversations. At the point at which they can be publicly discussed and there would be an appropriate thing to present to council, that's something we'll bring forward. In this case, it really is just as simple as us talking to Habitat, saying hi, and offering them some properties that make sense for them to own.
No, I completely get that, and I support in principle what you're trying to do here, but I'm noticing a pattern, whether it be the African American Heritage Grant, whether it be the housing rehab project, whether it be the CDBG funding process, that we initiate conversations and then somebody from the community says, well, why wasn't I in part of this conversation, right? And I can just see, and I'm not saying it's going to happen or anything like that, but I can just see somebody who does nonprofit housing development is going to hear about this and say, well, why did the city reach out to Habitat and not me? And we keep doing this, and it doesn't appear to be registering on anybody's radar that this keeps happening. And so I guess I'm just putting it on your radar. Perhaps we need to explore a housing plan, as we've discussed before, so that we can get sort of everybody out and together saying, okay, what are we going to do here? Instead of, and again, no offense, but okay, today we're just going to call up Habitat. It's a good thing. I get what you're doing, but I'm worried that it's going to blow up in our face.
Well, points taken. I suppose I should just put it out into the universe. I got lots of other vacant lots. So if there are any other organizations that would like to purchase those properties, they're all listed for sale on the city's website, and I welcome any inquiries about purchasing them. And they'll come before the council like these do, and the council can decide whether or not their offer makes sense.
You said it's on the website. Is it easy to find on the website?
If you go into the search bar and you type in available city properties, should come right up. It has, I don't run the website, but it's on there, and it has a page that'll kind of tell you that we have some vacant properties, a little blurb about how we came to own so many of them. There's an explanation on how the prices that you'll see in the inventory were set, kind of how we go about selling things, the process. And then at the bottom, you can click, the whole listing will come up, and you can see literally everything. So the list also includes all city facilities as well. So it's a total list. So there might be things on there that are marked as not for sale, but it's meant to be a fully encompassing list so that we caught every single property. So there'll be some on there that's like City Hall is on there, obviously not for sale. But the list is
Really?
meant to include everything, so that it's all out there.
Not everything is for sale. Very good. All right. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 26.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a special ordinance amending the Home Ownership Made Easy program, first reading.
Motion to approve the change to the home program and consider the amended ordinance.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 27.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a special use permit request for the Parks and Recreation Department to make changes to the Carriage and Auto House building at 1300 24th Street on the Denkman Hauberg estate for a daycare and public event space, restrooms and kitchen, gift shop, and one-unit dwelling, first reading.
Move to approve the request as recommended and consider the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Will this have any adverse effect to any historic value of the property?
So what is being proposed is the use will all be interior. The exterior of the property will not be significantly altered really in any way. There might be an additional sign put up or something to that effect, but it'll have no bearing on its historic character.
Okay.
And if you haven't been in it, it's very roughly 2 garages and a stable. So that's the interior space. It's pretty simple on the interior. The historic value of the estate overall has to do with the architecture, of course, but also the story of the family, the history associated with them, and all the rest. So putting a gift shop in there shouldn't really impede any of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 28.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a resolution with American Bank and Trust.
Move to adopt the resolution as recommended.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Besides, I'll say that thanks to American Bank for taking an empty building and making it a very viable and good-looking building again downtown. Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Item 29.
Report from the Finance Department regarding the 5-year capital improvement plan for calendar year 2022 through calendar year 2026.
Motion to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan is recommended and authorize staff to implement the calendar year 2022 projects and expenditures pending approval of the calendar year 2022 budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, you may.
Just real quick, following up on a statement earlier, when we presented the CIP originally to council and to the public, there were a number of items that fall under our contributions, and those are the DARIA agreements, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber, and the like. At that point, there was no funding source, but staff did make it clear then that those would be funded. So it wasn't as if they were added out of the blue. We made it clear that those would be in the final CIP. We just didn't have the funding source identified yet. So nothing was added that wasn't already presented to council.
Randy, what is the funding source for those contributions?
They're just in the general fund. And this happens it's happened the past few years when there wasn't sufficient gaming to cover all of them. This was the first year where we didn't have any gaming money at all to even, it's all going into our debt service. But it's not unusual for us to take some of those and fund them from the general fund. We just haven't had to do all of them before. And that was part of that general fund balancing, including those and then making cuts somewhere else.
Any other discussion? Oops, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
Another one of my grievances about the CIP that I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of was how we have line items on here that aren't exactly capital improvement projects, right? Like these contributions, for example. Randy, I know you don't have to worry about this budget here for much longer. And so I don't know if you want to speak to this, but obviously on December 13th, it is an unrealistic expectation that staff be able to move these, I don't even know what the proper term is, but get them out of the CIP. And I understand historically they were paid for with gaming funds and the whole story there, but I guess I don't think it's appropriate to have them included here. I guess, what are your thoughts? How do we move forward and not find ourselves on December 13th of 2022 with the same thing, right? I mean, should these line items be in the CIP? And if not, how do we take the time to kind of go through this and say, okay, what actually is a capital project that needs to be included in the CIP?
And you mentioned earlier they were in the CIP because traditionally they've been funded with gaming, and the CIP was where all the gaming expenditures were located. So it certainly, if council wishes, they could be removed. I know you and I have talked about sort of a revamp of the CIP, and that's something that I will pass down to Mr. Grip and with some information on that. And I would expect sometime next year to staff would take a closer look at the CIP and then make some recommendations on that. But you're right, you wouldn't see them in a traditional CIP. We just had them in ours because they were funded out of gaming, and all the gaming expenses were located in the CIP. They're then in the general fund budget also, right? So they go into the budget. It's just they would have a project extension of 223, which meant they were funded by gaming. But they do end up in the respective budgets, whether it's water, sewer, or general fund, and all of those ended up in one of the CIP, or one of the CED funds, I don't remember which one. Might not have been general fund, it might have been 207 or something, but. So that's a discussion we can have with Council Reed. It doesn't matter whether they're in or not, it's just, I think council also liked having them all together so that they could see those contributions and then they wouldn't be accidentally cut.
Most of them are multi-year contracts, too.
Yeah. Now we have actual contracts in there, which it's something to look at. I mean, right now, you're right, we can't change it now, but in the future, if council wants to make that change and staff wants to make that change, it's no issue.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item number 30.
Report from the Mayor's Office regarding the appointment of Debbie Healey to the Metropolitan Airport Authority.
Move to approve the appointment.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item number 31.
Report from the Mayor's Office regarding the designation of a Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to amend the motion and nominate Jenny Swanson as Mayor Pro Tem through December 2022.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
I have some questions, Mayor.
Yes.
So Mayor Pro Tem means mayor temporarily or mayor for the time being. Does this mean you're taking a leave of absence for your state senate campaign?
It does not. It is, and has nothing to do with that.
Okay. So then I have a question for our city attorney.
Sure.
So on pages 148 and 149 of our IML current handbook, the 2021, so it says the Illinois Municipal Code provides that if the mayor is temporarily unable to perform his duties, then the council elects one of its mayors to act as mayor pro tem. The absence in the statute, according to the handbook, says that the absence is from the city for such a length of time as would reasonably call for the appointment of a fully empowered replacement, or if the absence is due to a provable physical or mental inability to perform the general functions and duties of the office. The handbook goes on to state in People v. Blair, municipal officials are warned against the indiscriminate appointment of a mayor pro tem, because if you have both a mayor and a mayor pro tem, you basically have two mayors, each with full powers. Is that not what the handbook is saying? And has the city been using the appointment of a mayor pro tem incorrectly?
Sure.
The handbook also describes the situation of a mayor unable to attend a council meeting for whatever reason, and that's come up. Then the council members elect a temporary chair for that meeting. Is that correct?
The text that you read is correct as far as, I've got those same pages in front of me here. However, I'd like to add some clarification. And I did actually consult with the attorneys from the IML about their interpretation of this issue. So it talks about if there is a temporary absence or disability, and it talks about absence from the city or village for such a length of time as would reasonably call for the appointment of a fully empowered replacement. According to the counsel for IML that I spoke with, they said a temporary disability would include being outside of the state. If you are outside of the state, you are unable, unless you are in the city, that is a disability that is of a temporary nature, and that they said that a mayor pro tem should be appointed in that situation. They distinguished that from a temporary chair. For instance, if the mayor was at I'll say a ribbon cutting, it's not really applicable, I suppose, in our case, because our meetings are late enough, that's probably not going to happen. But if he was in the city and unable to be at the meeting, then that would be when you would use a temporary chair, and that was the distinction that was given to me by talking to the folks at the IML. I believe that in People v. Blair, they wanted to make sure that they wanted to avoid giving someone other than the mayor the power to take on filling vacancies and appointing offices or veto ordinances that the mayor was intended to sign. But it doesn't say that you don't have a temporary absence if the mayor is, say, in California or in Hawaii. And that's the distinction that I was given. And I think it does make sense when you take a look. We have in 1963, it looks like, was when we adopted the mayor pro tem language, section 2-29. And it says, if a temporary absence or disability of the mayor incapacitates him from the performance of his duties, but does not create a vacancy in the office, that the city council shall elect one of its members to act as mayor pro tem. And that is allowed by 65 ILCS 3.1-35-35 that gives the city the right to do so. I also was explained that by IML council that this is a standard practice among basically all of our sister cities, and that it is the proper use of the mayor pro tem position. So that's what I know.
Thank you.
Sure. Did that make sense? Okay, well, I'll be happy to try to write it down. Maybe I would do better in writing than...
You know, maybe sometime we'll
Sure, okay.
chat
No
about it.
Sure.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Nay.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item number 32.
Report from the City Clerk's Office regarding the schedule of regular meeting dates for the Rock Island City Council for calendar year 2022 pursuant to the Open Meetings Act.
Motion to approve the 2022 annual schedule of council meetings as recommended.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Yes.
A brief comment.
Yes.
So the annual goal setting is sometime in October, one date. So this year, we started the process just a little bit earlier on September 20th, but then we held several sessions. But we didn't really finish the process till December, when we just got the staff's input on the 2022 actions for the goals. So because it ended up getting completed so late, we've not had any opportunity to incorporate any of these goals or objectives or action steps in the budget because it was too late. So I guess we will have to be making more budget adjustments as we review that strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes?
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item 33.
Report from the City Clerk's Office regarding a request from the St. Patrick Society Quad Cities USA to hold their annual parade on Saturday, March 12th, 2022.
Motion to approve the request is recommended.
Second.
Any discussion? We're pushing this year along here. Roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes?
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Item 34, other business.
Other business.
Other business. Other business, anything good for the
Yep,
cause?
got a couple things real quick.
Yes.
Last week, Alderwoman Swanson and I helped down at the MLK Center wrapping some gifts, and I got to tell you, it was really neat to see the outpouring of donations made by local businesses to help support the event. And Jerry, what a great job on heading that up. So one last thing, and this is going to go to our own, I know we've got all kinds of issues with our city website, and I brought this up about a week ago. So if we look under the residency requirements online, and I'm specifically referring to department heads, it states here, department heads must live within the city of Rock Island limits. As we know, we have since had these discussions about, we feel that to get, some of the best candidates, sometimes we have to go outside of that area. But I just feel like with this wording on the city website, it discourages anybody that may be looking for a position in Rock Island that may not want to move into Rock Island. I mean, I think we need to make a change on that, because that may steer somebody clear of even applying for that position.
HR can make that change.
Okay, I just wanted to let that,
Just leave it blank, and then it can be decided as
okay,
on a
just bring that up.
case-by-case.
Thank you.
Anything good for the cause?
So, Mayor, on the
Yes.
7th Ward vacancy, how many letters of interest have you had?
I had 10. And I plan on bringing a name forward a week from tonight.
Okay, can I
And I
ask?
will, I'll be talking to each one of you individually about that individual that I pick. Haven't got it picked yet, but I will,
Okay, so are you interviewing all 10?
yes. Still in the process, that's the reason I can't right now, because I'm still in that process, trying to, playing phone tag and talking to people. So, yes.
Okay. Is there anything specific you're looking for?
I'm looking for someone, I guess, as we've all talked about, is a team player, someone that they're asking the reasons why they want to be on city council, what their intentions are. And I guess, if you want to call it, I don't know if the right probably term, level-headed, just detailed thoughts, logic, using facts to make decisions. Asking about those kind of questions. I'm doing more asking of those things than I am, instructing or anything else to see what their opinions are. I am not asking any questions about specific issues, about water and sewer or ARPA money or any of those kind of things. I'm not asking any of that type of questions. That's independent thinking that everybody should have when they, you know, on their own, not to be tainted by who's appointed.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to the conversation.
I do too. I look forward. I
I've talked
apologize
to-
that it waited even as long, but it's been hard to get a hold of people, and
Well,
my schedule's been busy.
10 applicants, really, that's a lot.
It is, it is,
That's great.
Mayor,
it is. Yes,
is there a reason that you denied my request to know who the 10 applicants were?
because
Or-
at this point, it's not fair and it's not part of the process for these individuals to be contacted and interviewed by individual council members or others. Some, you know, once again, may not want their name shared if they're not chosen. So I guess that's the two main reasons.
I mean, what process are you referring to? Is there some sort of process laid out in city ordinance or state statute?
I'll let the attorney answer that.
Alderman Parker, there is, basically, the procedure is that there isn't a set procedure that requires one way or the other for something, you know, for the process to take place. The mayor seeks applicants. He makes a recommendation to council, which council can either approve or not approve. Then if that person is not approved, then the statute says that the mayor makes a second recommendation. If that person is approved, they would fill the seat. If they were not approved, then the mayor would choose which of the first, either the first or second applicant would fill the seat. I've got a report that I put together on that a while back. I'd be happy to send it to you.
That's not necessary, though I appreciate it. I still don't see why the mayor is refusing to just give me a list of the names. I mean, I understand, I guess, why, but I see no sort of procedural or legal reason that I can't know who they are. And as somebody who is going to be voting on confirming them, it'd be nice to know, you know, what our options are, I guess. I mean, I know now Evelyn Day is somebody because of the public speaker here tonight, but other than her, I don't know who even applied for the job. And, you know, if I'm just going to be given the one candidate that you, Mr. Mayor, appoint, well, that sort of limits my decision-making ability.
I'm based it on what the state statute that we read asked for me, the steps that they asked me to do. It's supposedly the mayor's choice, and obviously it's confirmed by the council, but it's the mayor's choice after interviewing those candidates to bring forth.
Okay, but just so that we're clear, there's no legal reason that you can't share with me the list of names.
I would say that there is no requirement one way or the other from the research that I've done, Alderman Parker.
Thank you.
When we have a conversation, I'll talk to you about it. I didn't get a chance, I guess I'll bring up real quick, I didn't get a chance to express my comments on the, and not to drag this up again, the library and Martin Luther King and the budget and everything else. And my feelings is that we should come forth, whether it be in January or whatever, and we should allocate some extra funds to both organizations, even if it's using, you know, the reserves by several days. So I just want to let people know that my feelings on that. I don't vote, but I thought it only fair that I express that to the general public and the council, that I support the extra expenditures. Anything else for the good of the cause?
I do. I have one thing. I would like to thank Chief Landy for taking me on a tour of the police station today. I have never been there before, which is probably a good thing that I've never been there before.
And they let you out.
Because I would probably cry if I had to go there. But I just appreciated the time that you took to take me around, and so thank you very much.
Well, speaking of that, Meeks, also it was today, this morning. I lose track of days and I apologize. It was a great honor to see the promotions of a number of different officers, from lieutenant to sergeant, detective, It's great to see the movement within. It speaks a lot for the department. So that was a great, I wouldn't begin to be able to tell you the names, but I know one gentleman, Phil, was late, other than that, because we had fun with it. But it was a great, good experience to see the families. And he's probably laughing and listening to this and thinking, oh, I'm still getting picked on. You had something?
Yes, so we've had a number of people come and talk to us during public comment on the African American Heritage Grant, and I didn't know if the council wanted a presentation on the grant itself to see what's involved in it. Because we've never really made a presentation to council on, this is the grant and this is what will happen,
Study session.
or what's proposed. I mean, is the council interested in that?
I've read through the grant, but I think it would be
Yeah, I think so.
helpful.
I think it'd be helpful.
Okay, well, we'll set something on them. Just so everyone, when we're talking about the grant, whether you're for the grant or against the grant or whatever, you can at least see what's outlined in there. And all the community would be able to see it also.
So, Randy, I don't know if this is the right place about what I texted you earlier, my phone.
Yeah, you can talk to Tim in the back. I contacted him and,
Should I say anything, though, about it?
oh, if you want to, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can certainly say that. I see what you mean. Yeah.
So recently, my phone has, I don't know what's going on. There's a text going out as if I'm asking for funds. So if you get anything from me, if you get any text, and it's an unknown number that's asking for gift cards or something.
Yes, they're asking for gift cards.
So I don't, right now, I guess I'm the victim, but I think it's something within my city account. So if anyone out there, if you get a text message, and it's using my full name, so that's an indicator that it's not me, because I do not use my full name. But it's requesting for gift cards to be sent somewhere. Just know it's a scam. It's not me. Again, it's an unidentified number. It's not my city number. It's not my personal number. So I don't know what the issue is, but we're trying to get it figured out right now within IT.
Thanks for the cards, though, I appreciate it.
Man, now you're telling me.
But if you do respond and say, may I have a physical address to send the cards to so I can have the police deliver them, they won't text you again.
Darn. All right. That's the end of that. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Closed session 5 ILCS 122C11 litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding must be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Motion?
Motion go to closed session. Closed session for exception cited.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Need a roll call.
Alderperson Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.